This is a show about facing fear, unlocking courage, and taking action.
Courage isn't necessarily a daunting thing.
It's going to give you more purpose. It's going to give you more drive.
It feels like making a courageous decision is going to get you closer to who you aspire to be.
It's knowledge plus faith plus action equals courage.
This entrepreneur who had the hustle, but also believed in something, believed in creating something better. I've never seen a commercial for it. They do not have sponsored athletes. Over $1 billion in sales. It is all TikTok, Instagram, all influencer based. And that's how my kid heard about it.
I am excited. You guys pumped? Ready to roll?
So excited.
Yeah.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, we're back.
All right, this is the fun stuff. So I love that we're doing this once a month, and this is actually the second time we've now come together. Second edition of our Courage Brand Spotlight. If you listen to the podcast, then you know usually it's all about the guest. We go around an hour, maybe a little under. But the Courage Brand Spotlight is a little bit different. It's a little bit of trampolining around. Billy's bringing a Courage brand. Nicole's bringing a Courage brand. I've got a Courage brand. It's a brand that sort of stops you in your tracks. And you're like, wow, yeah, you know what? They're doing it right. The first edition, we had the Savannah Bananas, rewriting baseball, bringing fun into baseball. When they just came through San Diego, by the way. If you didn't know, if you catch a foul ball, it counts as an out. I mean, way to go. They're really bringing the fans actually into the game. We had the Female Quotient, which is like building this unapologetic community on a global stage. And then finally, I almost feel like, wow, those two brands are like.
And then
also the ready to drink cocktail Beatbox, which is disrupting a crowded category with youth fueled energy. And it's that story was super cool on how like they continued to iterate and pivot and pivot and pivot and pivot. And now Shaq's involved, but we're back at it today. 3 new brands, same idea. There's clarity, there's conviction, there's courage brands. I think we're going to start with Billy.
Yeah.
Then we're going to move to Nicole. And then I'll bring us home. Does that sound good?
Ready. Let's
Billy
play.
Collins, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a brand that I discovered through my kids, from my 15-year-old son. I love sports apparel brands. I read all the books about Nike and sneakerheads and et cetera. And all of a sudden he starts asking about this brand called Gymshark, and he wants some Gymshark clothing. And I'm like, Gymshark, what the heck is this? I've never heard of this. Right. And so turns out that this is a brand very digital native, been around since the early 2010s, founded in the UK. A guy who was basically a Pizza Hut delivery driver and in school in the UK decided, hey, I need workout stuff, and started to use the money he made from Pizza Hut to buy a sewing machine and materials and started making these clothes, right? So all online, sold online. So therefore went into a whole influencer space, which I'm sure there were hundreds of brands that went down this path. I think what to me made them stand out was they realized that it's not just about being physically fit. It's also about the ability to balance your mental health and what goes alongside that, right? And so their influencers talk a lot about the balance of health, not only being physically healthy, but being mentally healthy. And so, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there. I'm sure it's not all perfect, but to see a brand trying to stand for something different in the sort of athletic apparel side. Flying back from Chicago just last week, I saw like 3 or 4 people wearing Gymshark stuff. And again, I had like never heard of it. And all of a sudden I'm starting to see it in many places. And it's a question for the two of you. How big do you think it is in terms of sales?
Oh man, I have no clue.
No clue.
I like not a clue. And like
Annual revenue?
Mm-hmm. Is it over $1 billion?
It's over $1 billion.
No.
$1 billion.
Yes, over $1 billion in sales in 130 countries, obviously started in the UK, so Europe. So all of a sudden you got a lot of different countries.
Okay, 3.5 bills. I'm going.
But yeah, it was 1.6. 1.6.
I aimed high because you really said
no,
the
still. unbelievable for that brand within
Crazy.
15 years in a super crowded space. And again, I think it is much about the messaging. The clothing's fine. It looks cool, but it's not that substantially different than Under Armour and Nike and all those other brands that are out there. But it resonates. It clearly resonates through their influencers, allowing them to own the brand as opposed to it being something coming from, corporate Oregon or wherever. It is about, hey, people realizing and talking about how they're trying to stay mentally healthy. I just think it's a cool brand that's out there.
Also, pretty cool that you learned from your son. Like,
For sure.
I feel very old right now. Just putting that out there because it's like the quietest $1.6 billion brand on the planet. Is that what this is?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, it's one of those where it's like, again, as I looked into it, the story of this entrepreneur who had the hustle and did it, right? But also believed in creating something better. And the fact that we are in a totally different media landscape. I've never seen a commercial for it. They do not have sponsored athletes from like a professional athlete standpoint that I know of or could find. It is all TikTok, Instagram, all influencer based. And that's how my kid heard about it, right? By watching some sort of video, right? And clearly that's how it's been able to be successful. So pretty cool.
Do you know, Billy, I'm curious. I find it interesting when you said earlier, like, okay, the guy was like, oh, I need some gym clothes, and he created his own gym clothes. Is that because he didn't like anything on the market, or like at the time he couldn't afford anything in the market? Like, I'm curious what he felt like was missing.
Yeah, no, I think he just didn't think there was anything that was good out there that worked for him for his style of working out, right? Which actually is oddly the story of Under Armour, right? Like a guy at Maryland who said there was no stuff for when I'm cold and playing football or when I'm hot and playing football. I'm going to create something different. And as a beginning of blowing up that whole sort of performance apparel category, this is another one who's just disrupted them,
I mean, that guy is Kevin Plank. Okay, as the 301 expert here, like
representing.
And do you know one of my regrets? Talk about courage as regret insurance. So when we helped market the All-Star game for Major League Baseball here in San Diego, Under Armour was getting into baseball, really making a push. Had their box, so I could pretty much walk anywhere because we were working with Major League Baseball as well. I end up in their box. I'm like 3 seats from Kevin Plank. And for me, it's kind of fanboy moment. Like I'm in awe of someone else that's loves sports, that loves Maryland, that's doing it. And I'm like, I have to talk to him. I've got to talk to him. I ended up sitting next to the head of activation who I was talking to. And the person I brought with me had no idea he was even in the Under Armour box or that was Kevin Plank. I ended up having the courage to talk to him, but I really wish I would have pushed to be like, oh, I'm a 301 kid. I'm a Potomac kid. I love what you're doing. Congratulations. We work with Major League Baseball. Not like overselly, but just like create a little curiosity to like get in there. And I know I'm getting off track here, but you're right. Like Under Armour had a moment. I hope they find their moment. I also I wonder, like when I hear Gymshark, it's pretty focused on who it's for, right? And sometimes, as a guy like Lululemon, I'm not sure if that is for me. And then being out here, Viore, like, is that as intense that I should be wearing that for in the gym? This feels very focused and potent.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard of the brand, but I by no means am intimately aware with them or their products or their offerings. And so I go on their website and I'm like, oh, now I'm buying multiple sweatpants. Like I love their sweatpants. I am instantly
You're
customer.
A fan.
I'm in.
You're in.
All right, speaking of being in, why don't we pivot to you, Miller, on you're going to need Gymshark after your Courage brand spotlight, no?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. If you eat a whole package, perhaps, or half a package. I'm not sure what the limit is. Like, what's the number of... Anyway.
It's an excellent question. As you get there, I think I might mull over what is an appropriate number of these to consume in one sitting.
About it.
Go.
Okay. We'll end the conversation on my brand with the answer to that question. So my Courage brand is a fan favorite, I think, Oreo. And what I think is really interesting, it's funny because we're like talking like new brand, very old brand, right? Like they're like 100+ year old brand, right? Been in the market forever. And, we talk a lot when we talk about like courage brands about like the courage to stay relevant and like how like doing the same thing is you're not going to get the same result. Like you have to do something a little bit different perhaps. And so what's really interesting to me about Oreo is what they've done over the past several years with their flavor strategy. That's like really, in my opinion, like probably part of like a larger brand strategy. And I think it's so interesting how they've kind of developed this model of creating buzz and scarcity and excitement around like a limited edition flavor that it to people it's like kind of get it while it's hot, get it while it's here because you're not going to be able to buy this again. And really with like the long-term ultimate goal of like driving people to that aisle and really getting people to just like fall in love and buy the original Oreo again. But it's like so smart and it's so simple and they're so consistent with it. Like it's just really cool and it's really impressive to watch, especially in a category where I feel like sometimes it's hard to stand out. There's so much competition. And I just think it's really cool to watch what they've done. And people get excited about their new flavors. I actually think Billy got excited about a recent flavor, which I haven't tried yet.
I mean, I've got excited about a lot of recent flavors, to be real. Like to your point, it's funny, Ryan, you said, hey, in the first example, I learned about it from my kids. Clearly, my kids learned about Oreo from me, but I do feel like there's a whole other generation that is like, yeah, Oreo's part of my life. And there are plenty of legacy brands that don't have the opportunity to sort of do that. So like, when we're taking road trips, I'm driving the kids around, we go to a gas station, we go to a Wawa, right? And that's one of the great things. Oreos puts their limited edition in convenience store. Hey, one little pack, try 4, right? And so we've tried Coca-Cola flavored ones. We've tried Sour Patch Kids flavored ones. The most recent one is the Reese's collab with Oreo. And it is fantastic. It's not just a peanut butter Oreo. Like you can tell the difference between the Reese's flavor coming through. We've also had the Reese's Oreo flavored Reese's peanut butter cup. Also excellent. So they are very intentional about sort of saying who are the right ones that we partner with and bring in so that it's not a novelty. It's more of an excitement. Oh, I want to try that. I wonder what that's going to be like without it being kitschy or cheesy.
And I think also it's a really cool and interesting way to get some data on customer preferences, right? Like even if that's not like your primary goal, I think you like as a byproduct, I think you really get to learn a lot about what people are interested in from a flavor standpoint. And I think the other thing that's interesting to me is like there are some flavors where your immediate response is like, ew. Like I think there was a wasabi flavored one where it's like, why would I ever like gross? Like why would I ever want a wasabi flavored Oreo? But I think it's the intrigue of it. Like but like could it be good? Like is it interesting? Like should we buy a package? Like it's even like kind of just a little bit of that I think is just so interesting to watch.
And I'm sure there's a little bit of they have different people who are trying different things, right? So as much as you think the wasabi is gross, there's someone out there who like loves a little sweet and heat and is like going to give it a shot.
Well, I wonder when they put out, scarcity play, it's like LTO, what percent of the time are they going, our loyalists just love when we put out something new and they can curiously try it, only to anchor back to the OG, right, which we've talked about, versus, hey, this is actually a way of bringing new people into Oreo. They might come in through this channel. That might be their palate. Any idea on like, if you had to guess, what percent are they using it to bring in new blood versus, no, I know if I like Oreo, give me more of it. That's what I'm looking for here.
Yeah, I think it's probably a mix. I mean, I do know I read a stat, and I don't quote me on this. I don't know if it's right, but like it's still like 80+% of their sales like still are the original Oreo, right? Like so like that will forever be their bread and butter. But I think you're right, Ryan. I think there's a lot of like that's like, yeah, so maybe the kid wants the candy cane flavored Oreo, but then you're in the aisle and you're like, wait, well, I just want the traditional double stuff. So like now you're buying both, right?
Not to like geek out on metrics, but I would bet that their like household penetration, the number of households in America that at a given year have Oreos in them is probably very, very high. So I would guess that this strategy is not about getting new people because there are probably X% of America that would never have an Oreo. And I think back to your reference on Gymshark, knowing what they are, Oreo's not trying to go, hey, here's our vegan and here's our like healthier option or here's our like whatever. Nope. We're about flavor. We're about, the traditional Oreo taste. We're about nostalgia. We're about connection, right? So like staying in that lane allows the people that are coming in, they're probably not that many. They're just trying to say, I bought Oreos more often. I'm not buying other cookies. I'm not buying other treats. I'm just buying more Oreos. Would be my guess that their household penetration is pretty high. And people who are not, I would never have an Oreo in my house. It would be against the brand almost to launch something that would bring that person in.
So now I'm curious, are you guys I have Oreos in my home type of home, or are you a no Oreo home?
Yes.
Unless it sneaks in through the 10-year-old daughter, which happens somehow regularly. It's not through my wife, but the kids somehow
Find a way.
Oreo, they find a way. They find a way. They are in the permanent house.
Mm.
All right. So whether I sweat it out in Gymshark or I've got to wash down an Oreo, we're on to the third Courage brand. And it's time to murder some thirst here, folks. I'm staying in the beverage camp. We went alcoholic with our first Courage brand. Now we're going non-alcoholic and we're going with Liquid Death. And maybe this is like an obvious choice, but the recent Spinal Tap creative taking it to 11, where we felt like the guys were like thinking they're selling beer. And of course it's not beer. And like, we're not selling beer. And if you haven't seen this is why YouTube was created. Just go YouTube, Liquid Death, Spinal Tap, and get ready to smile and laugh. But let's start with, what year do you think Liquid Death was founded in?
No, I'm going to say 2018.
2012.
So it depends if we're playing Price is Right rules, right? Like, because one of you is over, but one of it's 2017. So yeah,
I
it's
was the closest.
2017.
Yes.
Yeah, you were
We're not-
closest.
But you're over, so I win in Price.
You're over. You are over, but you were
You
closest.
didn't state the rules prior to, so I'm closest and I win. All right, let's move
If
on.
I concede to Nicole. Continue.
Okay, so if we just think about, because I think like Billy, it's like, they've only been around for 9 years. They are so clear, and I remember, since I'm already dating myself with Gymshark, I worked on Evian decades ago. Like when I started in advertising, I remember, and it was all about the pristine mountains and the water dripping down the mountains and patience as it, just clean water. And here we literally have, and I love this, Mike Cesario, the founder, who comes straight out of advertising, who, and by the way, was a creative director at Netflix, did time at Vayner, and has sort of seen the model that, hey, like, let's lighten up a little bit. Like, I'm laughing because he's selling ice to an Eskimo. He's selling melted ice to Americans. Yes, there's a purpose to it. Yes, they're super disciplined on keeping it light and keeping it fun. And they keep doing it in a way where they're not watering down the creative in the water category. They figured out a way to stand out. Yes, Billy, I couldn't resist.
A good pun.
Zip, so I took it there. So, I mean, any surprise that Liquid Death is a Courage brand?
None at all.
I think it is quintessential, like carving out a very specific niche. And I think what I read about them at one point was one of their inspirations was there are people that go to rock concerts and want to drink a bottle of water and don't want to be seen drinking an Evian or a Dasani or whatever. And they're like, all right, cool, let's go for it, right? And they completely just embraced the sort of persona of the brand. And I think there is an element of, we have talked about this before, of this idea of like, they don't take themselves too seriously. Like, let's not be too serious about this. Let's have some fun. Let's do a Spinal Tap thing. I read one where they were saying they were the number one, because they have iced tea now. They're the number one iced tea in Arizona, but it was the city of Arizona, Nebraska, which apparently is a city. But it was like, clearly they're going after Arizona iced tea. And they're like, how do we say it? We're the number one tea in Arizona, Nebraska. And the whole thing around the people there wanting to try Liquid Death, right? So just super smart and very focused.
And it's working. It's working. I mean, I couldn't find a ton of numbers on their growth, but the word is that they're growing 25, 26% a year. I think I read 23 it was 250, 260 million in retail sales. And in 24, it had climbed to 330 million. So like it's resonating. The bit is working. It's landing with us. And they do have a purpose, which is let's get rid of plastic here from landfills and oceans. And I think they've claimed 10 million plastic bottles have been diverted from that because of, as they say, they are murdering plastic, which is very, very much on brand for the brand.
Yeah, I think they're now in like Beyond Water, right? I mean, they're
for sure. They
like
have
iced
the
teas,
flavor.
lemonade,
Yeah.
flavored, which is
They
great.
have they have energy drinks, which you would sort of expect, but in all of them, they are taking a mindset of being better for the environment, therefore environmental and lower sugar in all things. Like, so there's like a root beer flavored one. They have a whole line of cola knockoffs, right? So they have a root beer one, they have an orange flavored one, they have a lemon lime, like a Sprite one, all of which are just, why are we dumping? And I think that ad was like sugar in a can. Here's how much sugar you're eating drinking if you drink a traditional soda.
As we wrap up the spotlight, I love that we have, and by the way, just so the listener knows, like we don't really talk about who picks what. Like we each pick a brand, we come to the table, mad shout out to Kimberly from our team just to make sure we haven't picked the same brand. But outside of that, like it's cool that we've got a brand that's been around 9 years, a brand that's been around 15 years, and a brand that's been around 100 years. And if you would have asked me, I would have probably flipped. If you said, what's the order? I'd be like, well, Gymshark is the youngest.
Yeah.
And they're not.
Yeah.
They're not the youngest. Any other themes or commonalities you see from these three brands?
No, I think what you kind of said a little bit, Billy, but to me, the thing about, I'll say Liquid Death specifically, like, is, and maybe they do overthink, who knows? But it seems like they're just out there, like having fun and like, we're trying to do a thing and let's just do it. And let's not overthink it. Let's show up as we are. Like, and it's really refreshing to see, I think, for a lot of brands that I think don't do that very easily. And it's refreshing. That's the best word I can use. No pun intended, I guess.
I'd be curious on the Oreo side of things, because it is the only one that is a part of a big multinational, that how much do they overthink it? Because I can imagine in the Gymshark world, they're like, okay, very, very open to influencers. Oh, I like, yeah, sure. That got, because they want to be sort of representative. They want to be, have a certain point of view, but it's not like they're going to overthink, should I or shouldn't I let this person talk or post about my brand, right? Oreo, again, has been around forever. How protective are they? How fluid are they in a large multinational? Because it does appear like, hey, let's try Sour Patch Kid Oreos. Like, who's going to say, like, I can imagine that idea getting killed in so many corporate boardrooms. So again, credit to them, or credit to at least the attitude that they have to be able to try things that seem
I don't know if this is true, but I read this somewhere that like the team that's responsible for like coming up with the new flavors is like it's like a secret squad or like a secret team. Like I think they don't they kind of like work on their own little island, which I think is kind of cool.
Is this for Oreo or Liquid Death or
No,
both?
for Oreo. Like their team is kind of like small, and I think it's like pretty, I don't want to say secretive because I don't really know, but that's kind of the way the article I was reading was describing it. Is they kind of like workshop it in their little pod.
To be fair, I have a Danielle Brown. Shout out to Danielle Brown. She used to work on Oreo brand a little while ago, but she's moved around since then. But she used to talk about the vault of flavors. So there may be some secretiveness to it of they had a vault of flavors that they could pull from that they're creating and working on, and that they base on trends and making sure they're ready to be responsive and that sort of thing. So there might be some, we do our own thing.
Hey, if we're doing shout outs, then we got to give one to Greg Fast too. Greg was on the pod a while back. He's VP of creative at Liquid Death. We probably should have brought him in like as a guest on this one just to hear his take. Sneak him in. But the other thing that is true of at least on the Liquid Death side, and we've all been in those rooms where you want to feel like you matter and like your point of view is being heard, and your little thing is added to the creative, and then someone else's little thing is added to the creative, and you feel like maybe you don't even do it on purpose, but it like justifies your existence, and it's like box checked. But all those it's like death by 1,000 cuts, and suddenly the creative isn't funny anymore. It's not fun anymore. It's not memorable anymore. And I think that is the courage. It's like when fear is winning and you feel like you need to have your say or play, stepping out of that and moving away from that. And when I watch at least the Liquid Death creative, not surprising, it's an ad guy that started it feels like entertainment. Actually, it doesn't feel like I'm watching an advertisement. It's just fun and funny, and I want to talk to my friends about it. And that's success. That's winning.
Yep. For sure.
All right. Awesome session. I love that we're doing this. We're under 30. We should probably on someone's commute, hopefully. I think the truth is that like most companies are not getting stuck because they're out of ideas. They're getting stuck because of fear. There's fear of change, fear of standing out, fear of whatever happens if they just stick in a lane and they never pivot off that lane. So I think the ask is like, what can we learn from these courage brands? What's the bold move you've been putting off? Hey, maybe don't add your 2 cents. Maybe like have the discipline to not add your 2 cents. And then realistically, where's the fear, right? Do you have fear in calling your shot? Call your shot. We are actually recording this during Courage Week. It's going to go, I believe, a week after, maybe 2 weeks after. But if it's Courage Week, it's Fear Week. So take on a fear, go after that fear. Great things will happen. Billy, Nicole, appreciate you. Till next time, folks.
Thanks for having us.
Good stuff.
Stay courageous, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Courageous Podcast. If you enjoy the show, don't forget to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts so more people can find us. See you again next week.